good evening and welcome to this evening's free poetry workshop, One World for Everyone. It's a workshop that will hopefully lead you into composing a poem that can be entered into the TES poetry competition, which closes mid to late July. Nearly said January, that would be a long time. So the topic is One World for Everyone, and it's a focus on inclusion and diversity. So by the end of this workshop, you will have developed a range of ideas and some sample sentences and samples of poetic devices that you can put together to create a poem. So how does this work? Well, if you are participating live, then you can share your ideas in the chat box, or you can record them on your worksheet if you've printed it. If you haven't printed it, having it on another screen nearby is just as good. You can use the chat freely, but try and keep it on topic. The breakout rooms are optional, but they are a great opportunity to share your ideas, but also to listen to other people's ideas as well, which is a really good thing for feeding into your own work. We've still got people arriving. This is wonderful. Hello, if you've just arrived, we're just getting started. So if you are watching this by video replay link, then you can share your ideas in the video comments, or you can record them on your worksheet. And if you don't have the worksheet in front of you, if you look in the video description, you should see a link. If you click on that, you'll be able to download the worksheet. Now, you won't get a chance to go into the breakout rooms, but you will be able to pause the workshop at any point if you need a bit of extra time. So let's go. What do we mean by inclusion? What is inclusion? So Reese has said that inclusion means nobody gets left out. That's nice. Daisy says making sure that no one is left out and everyone has a say. Kaylee says making others feel wanted and like they belong. That's really nice, Kaylee. And Freya says I think it's when you include everyone. And Iona says not leaving anyone or anything out if it's something like an event. Nikita says inclusion is including everyone. Really nice ideas, everybody. So Chinumi says including all aspects and making it applicable and understandable to all. I think you've all got a really good working understanding of what inclusion means. But if you were unsure still, it's fairness, it's understanding, it's equality, acceptance, celebrating differences and diversity. It's all of those things rolled in together. So if you wanted a proper definition, inclusion is providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded, such as those who have disabilities or differences, or might be members of minority groups. So you can see why inclusion is a really, really important thing and a great topic to be writing thought-provoking poetry on. Now, we're going to get to grips with some inclusion vocabulary. Well, not necessarily inclusion vocabulary, but vocabulary about the different systems of how we include or exclude people. So we've got 4 terms here: inclusion, segregation, integration, and exclusion. So I want you to have a look at the screen, see if you can match those up. You can imagine that the 4 words are A, B, C, D, and the 4 definitions are 1, 2, 3, 4. Which ones match? Well done, Daisy. Okay, some great efforts in the chat from Reese, Kaylee, Daisy, Nikita. Well done, everybody. I will give you the answers in just a moment. If you are watching the video replay and you need some extra time, you might like to pause the video now. So there we have it. There are the definitions matched up with those key words. Now these are words that are actually on your worksheet as well, so you'll see them on there. They're underneath some images that we're going to talk about in just a moment. So inclusion, as I've already explained, is providing equal access to opportunities and resources for different people. Segregation is setting someone or something apart from others. Integration is the intermixing of people who were previously separated, and exclusion is the process of excluding someone from what everyone else has access to. So lots of you are saying you got them all right, or some of them right. Anaya got them right, well done. Daisy only got one wrong. That's brilliant. And even if you got all four wrong, don't worry, okay? It's going to get easier. You will become a bit more familiar with exactly what inclusion is as we work through the workshop today. So there are those four systems: inclusion, segregation, exclusion, and integration. Now, if you're going to have trouble remembering what they are, segregation is like separated, and integration is like integrating things. And exclusion and inclusion should hopefully be quite clear in your mind. So which image best represents which system? If you want to, on your worksheet, you can draw a line from the word to the image. And if you don't have the worksheet in front of you, you can just have a really good think. This is really interesting actually, because I'm looking at these images and I'm thinking, I wonder what I am. Am I a green dot, or a red curve, or a yellow triangle, or a blue zigzag? And I wonder what you think you are, or how you might fit into one of these images. So let's get some answers. Here we go. So inclusion is the one on the very end where the green dots and the yellow triangles and the red curves and the blue zigzags are all mixed in together. Everyone has equal share of everything. Segregation is the one where we have everyone very clearly separated. And exclusion is where we have those that don't fit the green dot type, all scattered around the edge. And integration is where we have those that are not like the green dots, part of the green dots, but they're still separated. So have a think, which system best represents one world for everyone? Well done. Lots of you are all saying inclusion, or image number 4 is the system that best represents one world for everyone. And I think it's really nice that you're all saying that, because that's what inclusion is. It's about everyone having an equal share of the pie, so to speak. Now, we can make allowances so that people can access their equal share of the pie, and that's what inclusion is. So we're going to talk about the experience of these different people now. So in these 3 images, these are the less favourable ones. These aren't inclusion. They're different systems. How do you think the people feel in these systems? Now, you can jot these words down on your worksheet around the images, because you might like to refer back to those ideas when we're writing some poetry. So how do you think the green dots feel, or the yellow triangles, or the blue zigzags, or the red curves? What emotions might these systems create for them? We've got some fantastic vocabulary in the chat. Freya says lonely and unwanted. Iona says isolated, depressed, angry. Now, I don't know if Iona means angry if she was a yellow triangle, red curve, blue zigzag, or if she was a green dot. Because I feel like if I was a green dot and I was in one of these systems, I would probably feel quite angry and frustrated, and maybe a bit guilty. Nikita says despondent. That's great. Now, Kaylee says the green dots could be bullies. Possibly. They might just be people that have easy access to opportunities and resources, and maybe they aren't actively trying to make a change. Well done, Sophia. Well done, Freya. Okay, we've got some really nice vocabulary there. I hope you've taken the time to make a note of that so that you can come back to it if you need it. Let's think about the experience of the people in this system. Now, this is the system of inclusion. So how might these people feel? All 4 different categories, although really, in real life, there are thousands of different categories of people. But if they're all having equal share of the space, the resources, the opportunities, how will they feel? Again, some great vocabulary in the chat. We've got equal, happy, included, comfortable, joyful. They feel like they belong. Fletcher, that's lovely. Well done. Daisy says maybe they feel at home. That's a lovely idea as well, and that's an idea you could even send to the theme or topic of a poem around. Freya says they might not feel so different to everyone else. And at ease. Really nice. Well done, everybody. So I'd like you now to think about 3 examples of inclusion in your school or community. So what I'm asking you to think of is different ways that your school or community include people that might not usually have access to the same opportunities or resources. So it could be people who have a physical disability, it could be people who have emotional or mental health difficulties, it could be people that maybe are diverse from the normal group within the school or the community. How are those different groups included into your school or community? See if you can come up with 3 different ways. There's some lovely ideas in the chat. I'm not going to share them all because we're going to go into a breakout room in a moment where you'll get the chance to share them in more detail. But yes, I mean, Shanumi says things like the Paralympics. That's a great example of inclusion. Maybe that might in some way be segregation because we have the Olympics and the Paralympics, but it's still a fantastic celebration of diversity in sport. So I'm talking more about these sorts of things. These are examples of inclusion. They are small allowances that might be made to enable everyone in your school or community have access to the same opportunities and resources. Things like quiet spaces, wheelchair access, hearing loops, translators, gender neutral toilets, sensory adaptations, scribes for writing tasks, extra time in exams, disabled parking. Anything like that going on in your school or community? And can you think of any other examples? So we're going to head off into breakout rooms now so you can share the examples of inclusion in your school or community. And when we come back, we're going to start working on some poetry ideas. So your breakout rooms will be for just over 1 minute. The notification should pop up, you click on it and it will take you into the room. Hello everyone, welcome back from your breakout rooms. Now if somebody in your breakout room was really helpful, had lots of ideas and helped organise everyone to share their ideas, then do let me know in the chat so I can give them a double thumbs up. Okay, So now what we're going to do is start create a start point that we can use to help generate some ideas for our poetry, for the actual written poetry that we're going to do. So I'd like you to write a sentence about how inclusion should feel. Okay, just a sentence. You can consider the title One World for All. You can consider using the vocabulary and ideas from earlier in the workshop. It's entirely up to you. Let's see if you can just come up with a start point of one sentence. Oh, well done. Nikita says, Iona had really good ideas. And Iona says Nikita and Reese had really good ideas. So well done to your breakout room. I know you don't get much time in them. They're just a quick fire moment to share some ideas. Okay, I'm hoping that you've got a sentence. I can see that some of you are sharing them in the chat, which is great. Iona says, included at last, safe and happy. Kaylee says, inclusion should feel great and make people feel like they belong. And Emily says, everyone is welcoming to others. So those are some really good examples of your start point. Now that we have that, we can start trying to use different poetic devices. So we're going to start with alliteration. As we work through these, I think you'll know what most of them are, but I will explain them anyway. Alliteration is the repetition of letters at the start of words. For example, totally together. Poets include alliteration to affect the way that their words sound and what their poem looks like on the page. So can you make some changes to your sentence to include alliteration? And if not, why don't you try writing a new sentence? Some lovely examples to share with you now. So Iona says, inclusion makes me gladly grin. Very nice. And we've got everyone should be willing and welcoming. Emily, I love that. And Daisy says, time together. At last we can all become united. Time together. I like that. Really nice. And Kaylee has come up with, inclusion is totally terrific and everyone should feel that way. Excellent. That's a great sentence, Kaylee. I wonder if you could drop in a few more words that start with T, other positions in that sentence. Okay, right, we're going to move straight on to the next one. Like I said, it is going to be a rip-roaring tour through different poetry devices in this workshop. And then after the workshop, you can spend some time really composing a thought-provoking poem. So we're going to move on to assonance. Now, assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. Poets use assonance to impact how their poem sounds and sometimes to create rhyming effects within lines and not necessarily just at the end of lines. For example, they cried and tried, my friends. So cried and tried, and even my have the same I sound in them. Now, the thing about assonance is it doesn't have to actually be spelt the same. As long as it sounds the same, then you are creating the assonance effect. So let's see if you can add on something to your sentence or make some changes to it or come up with something new. Just going back to the last challenge, Timothy came up with free and friendly. I think that's really lovely. And Freya came up with this. This is poetry already, Freya. They all seemed so different, but I was accepted. We weren't the same, but we all felt connected. Really lovely work. Okay, right, we're going to move on to the next one now, which is simile. So a simile is a comparison between two things by saying one thing is like something else, or it is as, insert adjective here, as something else. So for example, it felt exhilarating like a hot air balloon. She was as proud as a pineapple. So let's see if you can add on another line or make some changes to what you've written, or write something completely new, a simile about inclusion. Kaylee has given us a lovely example in the chat. She says, inclusion makes me feel like I'm dancing on clouds with my friends. That's really nice. Well done. You're all so good at this. I can't wait to read your poems. Nikita says, to be included is like having the sun beaming down on you. Daisy says, your temper is as fierce as a tiger's roar. Nicholas says, when she found a friend, she felt as happy as a hopping kangaroo. And Sophia says, stuck together like pizza. There's some lovely imagery there. Well done, everybody. So we're going to move on now to metaphors. Now metaphors, as you'll know, are very similar to similes, but instead of comparing using like or as, they say something is something else. So for example, her mind was a complex puzzle. Now it's saying her mind is a puzzle, but it isn't really. It's a brain, it's tissue, it's blood, it's a skull. If it said her mind was like a complex puzzle, it would be a simile, but it's a metaphor. So let's see if you can come up with your own metaphor. Well done, Emily. Inclusion is a maze of friendships. Reese says inclusion is glue. We all stick together. I really like that as well, Reese. So it's really important if you choose to use a metaphor that you think about making it connected to the topic of inclusion, just like Reese has there. She's picked glue, and she says that we all stick together, and that works really nicely. Well done, Reese. So we're going to move on to the last one now, which is personification. Now, personification is the giving of human qualities to inanimate objects, so things that are not humans, not people. Poets use personification to bring things to life and to make their ideas interesting on the page. For example, the pen smiled at her and jotted down her ideas. So, let's have you come up with an example. It doesn't need to be about the word inclusion. It could be about a hearing loop. It could be about the sign on a door. It could be about a pen or a pencil or braille or a wheelchair or something else that might help people feel included. Kaylee's got a cloud theme going on. This is lovely. She says the clouds smile down on us when we all stand together. Now for personification, you might actually find it useful to think back to all those different things that happen in your school or your community to make everyone included. It could be something as simple as glasses or, I don't know, an audio book. So, oh, lovely. Anea says the sun smiled down at them. That's just a lovely, lovely personification. Well done. So we're going to head off into the breakout rooms one last time so you can share the poetry samples that you've come up with. It's really interesting and useful to listen to other people's ideas as well. I'm going to give you 2 minutes because I know some of you said last time you didn't get quite enough time. But you don't get very long, so you're going to have to get into that breakout room and start sharing your sentences. So the rooms are now open and you've got 2 minutes. Hello everyone, welcome back from those breakout rooms. Now if somebody in your breakout room had some great poetry samples, do let me know who they were so I can give them a double thumbs up. Okay, so for the last part of today's workshop, we're going to talk about rhyme schemes. So if you come to my Creative Cafe class, this is going to be quite familiar because we actually spoke about this on Saturday, but it's really useful and important to consider. Iona says Archie and Toby were good. Well done, Archie and Toby. And Archie and Toby said Iona was amazing. She is, isn't she? Yes. Okay, and well done to everybody. So, rhyme schemes. Rhyme schemes are the pattern of rhyming words in a poem. Some poems will have rhyming words at the end, but not all poems and not all lines. Some poems have a strict structure of rhyming words. We call that a rhyme scheme. But others tend to focus on the rhyming of the sentences. And actually, you can have no rhyme at all. So we label matching rhyming lines in a poem with letters, and we call this a rhyme scheme. The first line is always A, and any following lines that rhyme are also called A. The next line that doesn't rhyme with A is called B, and so on. I know that sounds complicated, but I'm going to see if you can work out the rhyme scheme for this short 4-lined poem. Can you label it with letters? I will reveal it in a moment, so don't worry if it doesn't make sense. Okay, who wants to know what the rhyme scheme is? Let's see. Sophia, well done. I know Iona got it right as well. Oh, and Nikita, well done. And Inea, you're all very good. We had fun in the sun. A, sun, first word. We had fun on the sand. Sun and sand don't rhyme, so sand becomes B. And when we got hot, now hot doesn't rhyme with sand or sun, so it becomes C. We were professionally fanned. Now fanned rhymes with sand, so it becomes B. Now if the next line in the poem finished with the word not, then it would be a C. Or if it rhymed with sun, it would be A. Or if it didn't rhyme with any of those words, it would be D. So there you go. The rhyme scheme of this particular poem is A, B, C, B, not D, as is explained on the screen there. Well done. Okay, what we're going to do just for a couple of minutes very quickly is to see if we can just write a short 4-line poem using the AB rhyme scheme. Or if you're quite confident with rhyme schemes and you want to try something different, you can have a go with that. Now there's some rhyming pairs on the screen to help you if you feel like you just want to have a little practice and it's the rhyming words that take a bit more time. They're there for you. Let's see what you can come up with. If you don't really get the rhyme schemes, I wouldn't worry too much because not all poems use rhyme schemes, and rhyme scheme is just a fancy way of explaining which lines rhyme with each other, and if they don't rhyme, that's fine. And I've actually seen that Iona has said that her poem that she's coming up with, that she's putting together, hasn't got any rhyming words, and that's fine. That's poetry. So Kaylee said, we had fun as a group. We were all very happy. We twirled around hula hoops and at the end we got a bit sappy. It's an excellent example of AB, AB. So group and hoop and happy and sappy. I had a lot of fun while playing in the sun. Very nice, Nikita. Mum bought me an ice cream, refreshing and cold, but in my hand it started to lean. Quickly I licked it clean. So Emily, that's nice. So what you've got there is an ABAA. Freya's got it now. Excellent, Freya. Well done, everybody. Okay, so this is something that you can continue to practice after the workshop today. Sophia says, stay in a group and dance with a hoop. So that would be an AA. Iona says, near from here, not too far. That would be AB. Okay, excellent. We're going to skip those breakout rooms and I'm going to talk to you now about what to do after the workshop today. So you can bring together all of your ideas, everything we've spoken about, and construct and compose your own poem about inclusion. Now remember, the topic of this poetry competition, the theme, is one world for everyone. So you should try and make sure that your poem is heading along those lines. Now, if you send your poem to me by the 10th of July, your poem will be entered into the TES poetry competition under the collection of Holly's Classroom. You can enter directly, individually, if you want to, but I would be very happy to submit your poem as part of a group of poems from people that came to the workshop this evening. So, get your pens, get your paper, have a quick cup of water or a cup of tea after the workshop, and then see what you can pen and get it emailed over to me. Even if you don't want me to enter it into the competition, I'd love to see what you come up with. Now, if you enjoyed the workshop, then you might enjoy coming to my reading course this summer. We're going to have a great time doing all sorts of literacy based activities. We're going to read and study a book across 3 weeks. We're going to have a live Q&A with the author. There's going to be lots of fun things for you to do, lots of optional things, and you can get your up to sign up for that. Or if you prefer, you can come to my Summer at Hogwarts, which is 1 lesson a week for 3 weeks of English, looking at grammar, creative writing and language analysis, all themed around Hogwarts. Owls is for age 6 to 10 and Newts is for age 9 to 13 plus, so you might like to come to that too. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I've had great fun. I hope you have too. It's been really nice to hear your ideas about inclusion, and I hope that you will go away and write some really fabulous, thought-provoking poetry.